It begins not with fire, but with silence. It arrives on a wind that tastes of iron and ancient dust, carrying a chill that settles into the concrete bones of our cities and refuses to leave. Imagine looking out your window in July and seeing a sky the color of bruised slate. Imagine the snow falling soft and relentless, piling up against the glass, transforming the vibrant noise of the modern world into a muffled, suffocating stillness. This is not a distant science fiction scenario. This is the path our planet is already on, a path we chose without ever realizing it. We have built our civilization on the gamble that the climate is a constant, a benevolent backdrop to our history. But what if that gamble fails? What if the warmth we take for granted was merely a brief fever, and the planet is finally returning to its true cold equilibrium? This is the story of the ice returning. This is how the long winter begins, how our world ends, and how, perhaps, we survive the cold. To understand our future, we must look into the deep past. We live in what geologists call the Holocene, a warm, stable interglacial period that has allowed humanity to flourish for the last 10,000 years. But in the grand timeline of Earth, this warmth is an anomaly. It is a recess. For almost 90% of the last 2 million years, Earth has been locked in ice. The engine of this freeze is cosmic. It is driven by the Milankovitch cycles, slight, predictable shifts in Earth's orbit and axial tilt. When the planet's orbit stretches and its tilt lessens, the northern hemisphere turns away from the sun. The summers become too cool to melt the winter snow. Layer upon layer, the white surface reflects the sun's heat back into space, creating a feedback loop of cooling that locks the planet in a frozen grip. We often speak of climate change as a warming phenomenon, and indeed, our industrial emissions are currently delaying the inevitable. But the orbital clockwork is relentless. The pendulum swings. Researchers indicate that without human interference, the ice would already be returning. The question is not if the glaciers will reclaim the continents, but when the planet's natural cycle overpowers our artificial heat. Civilizations rise and fall, but the ice is patient. The next winter is already en route. It is simply a matter of time, not possibility. It doesn't happen overnight, like in the movies. The end of the warm era arrives as a stutter in the seasons. It starts with a winter that lingers into May. Then, a summer that never quite breaks 70 degrees. We see the headlines: unprecedented cold snap, freak blizzards in the tropics. As the ice sheets expand, they reflect more sunlight, cooling the Earth faster. The jet streams buckle. The great grain belts of North America and Eurasia fail. In the first decade, the price of bread triples, then decuples. Countries dependent on food imports collapse first. Borders slam shut as nations hoard calories. The tropical zones become the most valuable real estate on Earth, sparking migration crises that dwarf anything in recorded history. For a long time, we refuse to believe it. We invent new phrases: temporary anomaly, multi-year weather event, creating linguistic shields to protect us from the truth. We treat it as a political failure, then an economic crisis. But there comes a specific, terrifying moment of clarity, a tipping point where the snow doesn't melt in July. The realization hits the collective consciousness like a physical blow. The summer is not coming back. The interglacial period is over. The long winter has begun. When the planet becomes hostile, humanity retreats. In the span of a generation, we transition from being creatures of the open air to architects of enclosure. The survival of the species becomes an engineering problem. We retreat into megastructures, vast domed cities in the remaining habitable zones, or deep subterranean hives powered by the Earth's own internal heat. Energy becomes the only currency that matters. Solar is useless under the eternal cloud cover. Wind turbines freeze solid. We turn to nuclear fission and deep well geothermal energy to keep the lights on and the frost out. Agriculture moves indoors. Vertical farms stack upwards like skyscrapers, churning out algae pastes and nutrient-dense fungi. The taste of fresh strawberries becomes a legend told to children, a luxury of a lost world. But survival is not distributed equally. These structures are expensive and access is limited. A brutal class divide cements itself in the layout of these new cities. The wealthy in the upper levels near the artificial light, the poor in the deep, cramping dark. Yet, even here, flickering in the shadows, there are moments of profound humanity. Scientists working double shifts to optimize crop yields for the lower levels. Communities sharing meager rations. We adapt with breathtaking ingenuity, but we sacrifice the horizon. We trade the freedom of the open world for the safety of the cage. And as the centuries grind on, we have to ask, how much of our humanity do we lose when we never see the sky? Centuries pass. The ice sheet is now 2 miles thick over what was once Chicago, London, and Moscow. Inside the enclaves, a new human evolves. These are the children of the gray. They have never felt the sun on their skin or the bite of a mosquito. To them, nature is a hostile force of death, a white void that wants to kill them. The concept of a green earth belongs to mythology, filed away with dragons and magic. Culture shifts inward. Art depicts claustrophobic spaces. Music mimics the hum of ventilation fans. The population stabilizes at a fraction of its peak. We are a smaller species, huddled around our nuclear campfires. The collective memory of the Golden Age, our time, is preserved in digital archives, but the context is lost. They watch videos of people swimming in oceans and see madness. They see a reckless species that didn't know how fragile its warmth truly was. But even in this closed world, the human spark is difficult to extinguish. A few of them press their hands against the reinforced glass, staring at the blinding white outside, and feel something dangerous. Curiosity. They wonder what lies beneath the ice. But entropy comes for everything. Machinery wears down. The geothermal vents clog. The reactors age. We survive as long as our machines do. And the ice outside? It has nowhere to go. It simply waits for the lights to flicker out. There is a scenario where the machines stop. Perhaps it is a war for resources, or perhaps simply the slow exhaustion of components we can no longer manufacture. When the heat fails, the cold rushes in instantly. It reclaims the domes and the tunnels. It preserves the bodies of the last humans in perfect frozen stasis, statues of a species that tried to fight a planet. Without us, the Earth continues its work. The glaciers advance, grinding mountains into flour and cities into sediment. The steel beams of our greatest towers are snapped like twigs and buried in the moraine. Our plastic, our concrete, our nuclear waste, all of it is compressed into a thin, dark layer in the geological record. The Earth does not mourn. It has a memory far longer than our existence. The only thing that moves across our cities now is the wind. We were a brief flash of heat in a long, cold history, a fever dream that the planet eventually shook off. The ice covers our tracks, smoothing over the scars we carved into the land, returning the world to a pristine, white blankness. The cycles turn. Eventually, in 10,000 or 50,000 years, the orbit will shift again. The sun will strengthen, the ice will retreat, revealing a new landscape scarred and scrubbed clean. Life will emerge from the equator, green shoots pushing through the melting permafrost, colonizing a world that has forgotten our name. And perhaps that is the ultimate lesson of the ice. We are not the masters of this planet. We are its tenants, living in the brief, miraculous pause between the winters. When the last silence comes, it will not be an ending for the Earth, only for us. Somewhere, buried under miles of ancient ice, the last traces of our summer's sleep, waiting for a sun that will never come for them.